Hi, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to join me on today's video. On today's video, we're having a special bulletin, an emergency broadcast, if you will. And today's discussion has to do with the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule, recently published by the Division of Workers' Compensation approximately, I would say 10 to 14 days ago now. And today's video is extremely time limited. This video is being recorded on Monday, July 6, 2020. And by the end of this very week, by July 10, Friday, July 10, 2020, our opportunity to comment on the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule will expire. So we're at the end, we're in the second week of a 2-week public comment period. And I wanted to share with you my perspective on the new proposal that's been published by the Division of Workers' Compensation. Now, by now you've probably heard some rumblings and some grumblings from various factions and parties and groups in the system about the new proposed changes to the medical legal fee schedule. And I want you to know that I'm aware of all of these rumblings and grumblings. I'm aware of all the arguments of all the parties. And I want to share with you my perspective on this new piece of work by the Division of Workers' Compensation. And to begin our discussion about the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule, let's just talk about some of the very recent history that has led now to the Division of Workers' Compensation actually taking action. After many, many years of inaction on the medical legal fee schedule, they've now taken some action, and I want to share with you the history behind the motivation to take action now by the Division of Workers' Compensation. And for those of you that have been around for any length of time, you remember that back in 2017, 2016, 2017, and tapering off into 2018, the Division of Workers' Compensation took after and went after qualified medical evaluators who were misusing the medical legal fee schedule and providing for billing levels for their reports that their reports did not qualify for. And at that point in time, the Division of Workers' Compensation had it up to here with QMEs misusing and abusing the medical legal fee schedule that was in place at the time, and which is, at the time of this recording, is still in place. And through careful review of the existing medical legal fee schedule, the Division of Workers' Compensation found that qualified medical evaluators were manipulating the descriptions of the complexity factors under CCR 9795. They were manipulating the complexity factors for their own personal gain and their own benefit. And so the Division of Workers' Compensation took after those doctors and disciplined many, many doctors for allegations of overbilling. And this became referred to as the underground regulations that had been proposed by the Division of Workers' Compensation. Well, those underground regulations eventually became suppressed as Los Angeles-based attorneys took their own course of action against the Division of Workers' Compensation and got the Division of Workers' Compensation to suppress their disciplining of doctors. But the point that the Division of Workers' Compensation was trying to drive home to the community had been well felt and had been well established. And in my opinion, the Division of Workers' Compensation, they made their point. They made their point. They made all of us as qualified medical evaluators wake up and take a harder and closer look at the billings being sent out for our reports. So that happened in around 2017, and that sent some shock waves through the QME community. And then a couple of studies came out shortly thereafter. One in 2018 by the California Workers' Compensation Institute. A study in 2019 came out, published by the Workers' Compensation Institute Review Board. And these studies shed some light on some of the recent changes in the QME process, in the workers' compensation system, in the populations of qualified medical evaluators. And between these two studies, they exposed much of what the silent trends have been in the QME industry here in the state of California. And let me just share a couple of findings from these two studies. From the California Workers' Compensation Institute study right here in 2018. A couple of surprising findings came out from this study. The study told us that the total number of QME providers decreased by 20% between January 2012 and September 2017. The number of QME providers diminished by 1/5, by 20%. So the QME population is diminishing. This is an important piece of data that's going to lead to later the state auditor's finding in 2019. So stay tuned, bear with me, and we'll get to that in just a second. So the QME population was diminishing. Well, the California Workers' Compensation Institute also discovered that chiropractors, and I'm a chiropractor, represented the largest specialty group in the QME population in both 2012 and 2017, although orthopedic surgeons, who represent only about 1 of 6 QMEs, 1/6 of all QMEs are orthopedic surgeons. The orthopedic surgeons provided more than half of all medical legal services in both 2012 and 2017. So the orthopedic surgeons as a group are a very powerful group because they dominate about 50% of all medical legal evaluations conducted throughout the entire state of California across all specialty groups. Okay, chiropractors are the largest, but the orthopedic surgeons do the most evaluations, and I'll share with you how that impacts the new proposed medical legal fee schedule here in just a minute. And then finally, they discovered that payments to qualified medical evaluators for time-based supplemental medical legal evaluations and supplemental reports continued to increase. This is a major concern for the payers of these reports, having to pay for more supplemental or follow-up face-to-face evaluations and supplemental reports following their payment for the initial report. Okay, so those payments continue to increase, 102% for follow-up face-to-face evaluations and 162% for supplemental reports. So the conclusion of the CWCI study was that fewer and fewer qualified medical evaluators are billing more and more for follow-up face-to-face evaluations and supplemental reports. And so these are some things that the Division of Workers' Compensation is seeking to address in the new proposed medical legal fee schedule. And then in 2019, the WCIRB State of the System report examined some of the trends, not necessarily in the QME population, but in the workers' compensation system as a whole. And of course, they shed some light on the growing frequency of claims for cumulative trauma, specifically the post-employment cumulative trauma type claims. And they concluded that cumulative trauma claim frequency continues to increase throughout the state, but particularly in the Los Angeles basin and in the San Diego area. And these are cases that come to us as qualified medical evaluators for an evaluation under Labor Code 4060 for the compensability evaluation. So the compensability evaluation under 4060, because it represents such a large frequency of the type of evaluations that we as qualified medical evaluators get, this type of claim played greatly into the Division of Workers' Compensation's proposal under the new medical legal fee schedule for what we are to be paid for an initial evaluation. Okay? So just bear some of those things in mind as we continue here today. And then all of these three things, these all culminated in basically a disaster for the Division of Workers' Compensation with the publication of the State Auditor's report in October or November 2019. I think it was November 2019, very recently, wherein the State Auditor gave the Division of Workers' Compensation a heavy backlash spanking for their administration of the Qualified Medical Evaluation Program. And the State Auditor exposed several weaknesses within the Division of Workers' Compensation. We'll go over those in just a minute. And it's because of these exposed weaknesses by the State Auditor that has then led the Division of Workers' Compensation to take action and to propose the new medical legal fee schedule, which we'll discuss here in just a moment. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the State Auditor's report. And as I said, this is from November 2019. So here it is. This is the stamp of the State Auditor. And the conclusion of the State Auditor's report is that the Department of Industrial Relations, and the DWC specifically, has had a failure to adequately administer the Qualified Medical Evaluator process, and this failure may delay injured workers' access to benefits. Now, of course, this is something that nobody wants. The whole purpose of the system is to provide benefits to injured workers who qualify and who need and who deserve those benefits. So the failure to properly administer the program has some unfortunate and unintended ramifications. And the State Auditor identified three basic problems, beginning here in section paragraph number 2. They tell us that although the DWC is responsible for overseeing QMEs and the selection process of QMEs, it has not adequately ensured that it has enough QMEs to keep up with demand for their services. Without an adequate number of available QMEs, injured workers can experience delays in receiving evaluations and therefore delays in receiving the benefits needed. And according to qualified medical evaluators and other parties in the system, the dwindling number of QMEs can be directly traced to the low and paltry pay of the existing medical legal fee schedule, which is to be addressed under the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule in an effort and a hope to be able to attract more QMEs into the system. State Auditor told us that the DWC inappropriately, and it uses the word inappropriately here, it doesn't say illegally, it says inappropriately used its reappointment process to discipline certain QMEs alleged to have committed overbilling violations. And this is what we referred to earlier as the underground regulations. So the DWC did not act illegally. They may have acted inappropriately, but in my opinion, they drove their point home to doctors who they had confirmed to be committing overbilling violations. So that's allegation number 2. And then finally, the Division of Workers' Compensation has not ensured that QMEs produce high quality reports. So therefore, this is going to be the third area that the division is attempting to address. Number 1, they're attempting to address recruiting and attracting more QMEs to the system. Number 2, they're trying to crack down on billing violations by the establishment of a new medical legal fee schedule that is immune to gaming and is not as easily manipulable as the currently existing medical legal fee schedule. And then number 3, the Division of Workers' Compensation is attempting to improve the content and quality of the QME's reports. So let's take a look at these allegations quickly, one by one. So real quickly, let's review these state auditors' allegations. Number 1, that the DWC has failed to ensure that it has enough QMEs to keep up with demand. And according to the parties, the stakeholders, persons other than the Division of Workers' Compensation, the reason for the dwindling supply of qualified medical evaluators has to do with low and stagnant pay being provided for the work that we do. Now, this is something that the Division of Workers' Compensation is going to attempt to address through the new proposed medical legal fee schedule, which is proposed to give us a raise in pay, So that's a good thing, and the Division of Workers' Compensation is addressing this. Number 2, that the DWC inappropriately used its reappointment process to discipline QMEs alleged to have committed overbilling violations, QMEs who are attempting to create their own fee schedule and create their own reimbursement rate for their work. And the way that these disciplined qualified medical evaluators did that, and the way that they committed overbilling violations, is by manipulating the complexity factors that exist under the current medical legal fee schedule. And the Division of Workers' Compensation attempts to address this in the new proposed medical legal fee schedule by eliminating any manipulability of the fee schedule. In other words, at the stakeholder meetings wherein we discussed the new medical legal fee schedule, the word gaming, or gaming the system, the phrase gaming the system came up over and over and over again. And the parties accused qualified medical evaluators of gaming the system through manipulation of the complexity factors. And the Division of Workers' Compensation is attempting to address this by eliminating any manipulability of the new proposed medical legal fee schedule. Okay, so that's 2 issues raised by the state auditor's report. And then the 3rd issue raised by the state auditor is that the Division of Workers' Compensation has not ensured that qualified medical evaluators produce high-quality reports, thus leading to the ever-increasing need for follow-up face-to-face evaluations and supplemental medical legal reports. And so the Division of Workers' Compensation is attempting to address this shortcoming as well. They've done a couple of things. They've built into the new medical legal fee schedule, or the new proposed medical legal fee schedule, a system whereby qualified medical evaluators are more motivated to produce high quality reports the first time through, and they're disincentivized to produce low quality reports, because in those circumstances where the parties have to come back to the qualified medical evaluator for a supplemental report, there are instances wherein the qualified medical evaluator is not going to be paid under the new proposed medical legal fee schedule. They're not going to be paid for their supplemental reporting. And so the Division of Workers' Compensation is predicting that this will work as a stick, okay, as a stick. You have the carrot and the stick. This is going to work as the stick to penalize qualified medical evaluators who produce poor quality reports that cause the need for the parties to come back to the qualified medical evaluator over and over and over again for supplemental reports, as those qualified medical evaluators manipulate the system and manipulate the use of supplemental reports simply to increase the case value of their evaluation. So that's one step that the division is taking to address the quality of the reports. The second step is the Division of Workers' Compensation established a report quality committee, a report quality work group committee. And I'm on that committee. I've attended several sessions on that committee, and the Division of Workers' Compensation is sincerely interested in doing whatever it takes, and it's a huge project, let me tell you, but they're interested in doing whatever it takes to improve the content and the work quality product that we as qualified medical evaluators put out. Now, so I want you to imagine this. As the heat started to come down on the Division of Workers' Compensation, the Workers' Compensation reached out to what they referred to as stakeholders. And stakeholders are people in the system, like qualified medical evaluators, like claims payers, like applicant attorneys, like defense attorneys, like the executives from QME management groups, such as lobbyists, and they invited stakeholders to participate in the new medical legal fee schedule committee. And I participated in those sessions. There was 4 sessions between December 2019 and April 2020. I participated in 2 out of those 4 sessions. The last 2 of the 4 sessions, I was invited to participate. And simultaneously, they also established a QME report quality committee. Now, in my opinion, the 2 committees are not yet intercommunicating. And unfortunately, while the QME report quality committee has decided upon what it is that is going to be expected of us as qualified medical evaluators in producing our QME reports from here forward, they decided that outside of communication with the Medical Legal Fee Schedule Committee. And so it's very interesting. We're deciding on what the work product is that we're being expected to deliver as qualified medical evaluators before, or I should say even after the Medical Legal Fee Schedule Committee met before the Report Quality Committee. So before we decided what it is that our work product is going to have to entail, we decided what we're going to be paid for that before we decided what it is that our QME reports are going to look like in the future, which seems to me to be completely backward. Means to be completely backward. We should have decided what goes into a quality report and what's going to be expected of us as qualified medical evaluators. And then once that is established, then decide, okay, what is a fair rate of reimbursement or compensation for a work product that actually meets this tall criteria? But we went at it completely reversed, and that's one of the problems that I see with the new proposed medical legal fee schedule. So I want to take you into the stakeholder meetings that took place between December 2019 and April 2020. And as I said, I was there for 2 of the 4 meetings. And these were long days. These were 6- and 8-hour days down in Oakland, California, where all the stakeholders came to meet. And we met in a large room, and there was chairs arranged in a box around the perimeter of the room. And there were approximately 25 to 30 stakeholders in the room. I was there as a qualified medical evaluator and as a continuing education provider. And as I said, there was claims administrators there. State Compensation Insurance Fund had a representative there. Schools Insurance Group had 2 representatives there. I believe it was Albertsons, which is self-insured. They had a representative there. And there were several claims payers in attendance. There were applicant attorneys, there were defense attorneys, there were attorneys unrelated to applicant and defense there. There were executives from QME management companies there, and all these parties, including the Division of Workers' Compensation, came together. Well, by the time I arrived at the 3rd of the 4th session, much had already been accomplished, and politics were well underway. And it seemed that the California Orthopedic Association had a heavy influence over the proceedings because, as we stated earlier, the Workers' Compensation Institute Review Board study discovered that approximately 50% of all evaluations in the state are being done by medical orthopedists. And of all, another important statistic, of all qualified medical evaluation reports submitted through the system, 85% of all reports come in at the ML 102 and ML 103 level. So those are reports that reimburse at $625 and $937.50. And what's amazing is the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule provides a handsome raise for those 85% of all reports. So there is a raise in store for 85% of all initial evaluation reports. 15% of initial evaluation reports are ML 104 reports, and those reports are going to take a substantial pay cut under the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule. So at the stakeholder meetings, much had already been established, roles had already been designated, and pecking order had already been established, and it seemed that the freight train was moving very quickly toward a flat rate fee schedule, which had as its purpose, number one, to give us as qualified medical evaluators a raise, approximately a 30% raise. Number two, to eliminate gaming or manipulation within the system. And number three, to create a situation or a circumstance where claims payers could predict what their expenses would be for medical legal evaluations so that they could allocate their resources and their reserves accordingly. So those were the three objectives being hammered out by the stakeholders at the stakeholders meetings. Well, over the course of these 4 meetings, we arrived at what we could agree upon, what we could accept for fees for all of the various activities involved in the QME process, such as missed appointments, such as supplemental reports, initial reports, such as attending depositions, and all these services that we routinely provide as qualified medical evaluators. We agreed as a group on some basic fee structures. Well, now, a couple of months later, the Division of Workers' Compensation has slightly modified some of those agreed upon fees and come out with their own proposal. So let's review some of the key components of the DWC's newly proposed medical legal fee schedule. So here is the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule, recently put out no more than about 10 to 14 days ago by the Division of Workers' Compensation. And let's just scroll down to 9795, which pertains to the fees that are going to be allowed for the types of work that we do. Okay? So we're down here at CCR 9795, the reasonable level of fees for medical legal expenses, for follow-up evaluations, for supplemental evaluations, and comprehensive medical legal evaluations, and medical legal testimony. Okay? So first thing is that we've been given a raise. The relative value or the unit modifier for the work that we do is being increased from $12.50 to $16.25 per unit. So that's a substantial increase. That's approximately a 30% increase. And this is the percentage of increase that the State Auditor suggested that we qualify for at this point in time, considering that we haven't had any kind of a pay raise since 2006. Okay, so we're expected to get a 30% pay raise across all services that we do, and you're going to see here in just a moment that some of the services carry with it an even greater pay raise benefit. Okay, so let's review the codes. Code ML200, which is a new code, Formerly was ML 100. It is now a mandatory payment of $503.75 for a missed appointment. And a missed appointment includes instances where the injured worker does not show up for the evaluation, the injured worker is more than 30 minutes late for the appointment, and the QME is unable to continue with the scheduled appointment, or in the case where the appointment has been canceled within 6 business days of the scheduled appointment. So whereas now we have a $0 mandatory reimbursement rate for a missed appointment, now we're going to have a handsome reimbursement of $503.75 for a missed appointment, and in my opinion, this is an improvement over the existing medical legal fee schedule, and this new code addresses a substantial problem within the system, and that has to do with the large number of missed appointments that we have to suffer as qualified medical evaluators, and this fee is designed to compensate us. If not fully, it compensates us for the time that we've dedicated in establishing the appointment, and also for the lost opportunity that we encounter when our time is wasted by a no-show examinee. The next code is the ML201, and this is the code that we're going to be billing under the majority of the time. This is the flat rate fee of $2,015 for our initial comprehensive medical legal evaluation. Now, at 30% pay raise, it's expected that our pay for the work that we're doing as qualified medical evaluators is going to increase from its existing level at $250 per hour to the new rate of approximately $325 per hour. So you can tell that at $325 per hour, this rate represents approximately 6 hours of work in producing the entire evaluation from start to finish. Now, this is one of the new codes that I don't believe is going to work. This is a code that for me is a problem. But for those 85% of evaluations that involve either ML 102 or ML 103, this represents a substantial pay raise over $625 for an ML 102 or $937.50 for the ML 103. So for this fee, we're expected to review up to 200 pages of medical records, and then medical records in excess of 200 pages are going to be reimbursed at $3 per page, up to a limit of 1,800 additional pages. So this encompasses the first 2,000 pages of medical records. For 2,000 pages of medical records, we're going to be reimbursed $3 per page for each page in excess of the first 200 pages, which is included in the flat rate fee, up to an additional 1,800 pages. And then after the 2,000 total pages, each page thereafter is going to be reimbursed at $2 per page. So the Division of Workers' Compensation figures that we're already set up, we're already in process of reviewing the records, and we're in flow, and we're at our computer reviewing the records. And so the rate per page drops after 2,000 total pages. So imagine that you have an initial evaluation that includes 200 pages. You're going to be paid $2,015. Imagine that you have an initial evaluation that has 2,000 pages of medical records. You're going to get paid 1,800 pages times $3 a page is $5,400 plus $2,015, which comes to $7,415. Now, that's a fairly handsome pay for an initial evaluation, but it includes 2,000 pages of medical records. So for those cases that involve large volumes of medical records, this fee schedule fee schedule could be very attractive and could compensate the qualified medical evaluator handsomely. However, for those lower page count evaluations, such as down in the 200 pages of records, the reimbursement is going to plummet precipitously down to the flat rate fee of $2,015. And this evaluation pay rate and this code is expected to compensate qualified medical evaluators very, very handsomely for reports that used to be reimbursed under the ML 102 and under the ML 103 at a much, much lower rate of reimbursement, including those denied cases that come to us as denied cumulative trauma claims that involve the compensability evaluation under Labor Code 4060. This represents what the Division of Workers' Compensation considers to be a handsome pay raise for us. Okay? The next code is the follow-up medical legal evaluation. This is where you need to see the examinee face-to-face a second time, perhaps after they've gone through a period of medical treatment or some other evaluations. They come back to you, and you're going to be reimbursed $1,116.25. That includes a review of an additional 200 pages of records. Again, pages in excess of 200 will be reimbursed $3 per page, with a drop in pay to $2 per page for those pages in excess of 2,000 total pages. So this is a much lower rate of pay than the flat rate fee of $2,015, but the division feels that at this point in time, when you're seeing the examinee the second time face-to-face, you already have an adequate history, you already have a good understanding of the case, and so the rate of reimbursement is about $700 less. Okay? Now, at this rate of pay, this type of evaluation is expected to take somewhere between 3 and 4 hours round trip, up to 200 pages of medical records. That in itself could be 2 hours of time. So the remainder of the evaluation would include approximately 1 hour face-to-face with the examinee and 1 hour in report writing. And in my opinion, this rate of pay is much too low, and the page count of records is much too high. And this is going to represent a significant pay cut for those follow-up face-to-face evaluations. And in addition to low rate of pay, the length of time for which this pay rate is going to apply is increased now from 9 months in the current medical legal fee schedule to 24 months under the newly proposed medical legal fee schedule. So if you see an examinee today and you declare that examinee to be not permanent and stationary today, and you recommend that that examinee go through some treatment or some additional diagnostic testing, you're locked into this $1,116 reimbursement rate for 24 months before the evaluation reverts back to a comprehensive initial medical legal evaluation. So this rate of pay is locked in for a substantial period of time, making it very difficult for any billing for face-to-face evaluation to exceed $1,113.16. So in my opinion, that's not a favorable change. What may or may not be another favorable change has to do with the fees for supplemental reports. Those are now capped at $650, and that has to do with the physician's discussion of new information for the physician's review of information. These are fees that will not be allowed. Fees will not be allowed for supplemental reports following the physician's review of information that was already available in the physician's office. That's number one. When the physician has to address an issue that should have been addressed in the initial comprehensive medical legal evaluation, and they're not going to pay to have you write a supplemental evaluation. Only in those cases will you be paid when you're being asked to review a new question or you're being asked to review new information that was not previously provided to you. And in my opinion, that makes sense, because this is an area where many doctors are exploiting and manipulating the system by creating an ongoing need for a series of supplemental reports to eventually get the questions of the parties answered, and the division is taking direct aim at that problem with this new lowered fee for bona fide supplemental reports. And as we're going to see in a minute, for those supplemental reports wherein the parties are simply seeking clarification from the qualified medical evaluator on issues that the qualified medical evaluator should have addressed, there will be no reimbursement for that supplemental report. Finally, we're getting a pay raise for depositions because of the stress involved with depositions. The division felt it necessary to give us an additional bump for hazard pay, what they refer to as hazard pay. So we're now going to be reimbursed $4.55 versus $2.50 per hour for depositions, so that's a good thing. And then for reviewing sub rosa videotaping, we're going to be paid $3.25 an hour, which is approximately the new hourly rate based upon a 30% pay raise as recommended by the State Auditor. So that's a good thing. We're getting an hourly pay rate. And then finally, the last code is what many qualified medical evaluators are going to be billing for, and that is the ML206, which is a remedial supplemental medical legal report, which is used by physicians who produce a supplemental report following their review of information which was already available in their office at the time of the initial evaluation, for addressing an issue that was already requested by one of the parties but that was not addressed in the initial evaluation, or addressing an issue that should have been addressed in a prior report. So the parties, and I sat there in the stakeholder meetings, and the claims payers were very vocal, and they complained loudly that they were paying hand over fist money for supplemental reports as qualified medical evaluators dragged them on, and dragged out the whole process by being vague and by failing to actually resolve disputed issues. And the claims payers took direct aim at that problem with what they're referring now to as the remedial supplemental report, which is simply their attempt to get their questions answered that should have been answered the first time through in the initial qualified medical evaluation. So at this point in time, you may be wondering, is the new proposed medical legal fee schedule going to be better for me, or is it going to be worse for me? Am I going to make more money, or am I going to make less money? And there are 100 different opinions out there amongst the parties and the players as to that question. In my opinion, the new proposed fee schedule has several beneficial new features, especially as relates to missed appointments. The situation with missed appointments is going to be way better, because currently the claims payer is not obligated by law to provide any reimbursement or remuneration for a missed appointment. Many claims payers will provide a courtesy payment of $200 or $300 or $400, but it's not required by law, and it's simply a courtesy payment which they extend in those cases when they hope to recover that payment from the examinee in the end of the case. But it's not required, but under the new proposed schedule, reimbursement is required. So in my opinion, that's a good thing. Initial evaluations, will they be better or worse at the flat rate fee of $2,015? Well, that depends on who you are. If you're an ML 102 writer and you're used to pumping out these reports at the 625 level, then certainly the new fee schedule at $2,015 is going to be a 3 times pay raise for you. 3 times pay raise for the same report. So that's, if you're an ML 102 writer, an ML 103 writer, this is going to be a fabulous pay increase for you. If you're an ML 104 writer and produce quality reports that hit all the high notes and dot all the I's and cross all the T's, where you do activities of daily living assessments in the face-to-face evaluation, you order diagnostic studies, and you're providing for lengthy reports, then this is going to be a substantial pay cut for you. For me, I'm an ML 104 writer, and the initial evaluation at $2,015 is going to be a substantial pay cut. So I'm not excited about that, but what I am excited about is the opportunity to create change in the reporting that I'm doing up to this point in time. And it seems that the Division of Workers' Compensation, in providing us a pay raise, they feel that they are honestly providing us a 30% pay raise, and they're responsible for showing to the State Auditor that they are indeed providing us a pay raise. So they feel that in providing us a pay raise, they also have the authority to change the way that we produce our evaluations. They're demanding that we be more streamlined, more efficient, and actually being better at the work that we do, such that we can get the job done in a quality manner in about 6 hours of time for an initial evaluation. Now, the time and the reimbursement will increase as the number of page counts increase, because page count has now become a proxy or a surrogate for complexity. Instead of the complexity factors that we have under the current fee schedule, it's page count that's going to account for the increased complexity of the evaluation. So I'm not that happy about the new flat rate fee schedule for initial evaluations, but I'm hopeful that we'll make up any shortcoming or any shortfall on our initial reporting with some of these other services that are being now reimbursed at a higher pay rate. So the follow-up evaluations, in my opinion, are worse, because a second face-to-face evaluation is now locked in for a low fee for 24 months. And the fee is just much too low, in my opinion, for the same page count which is involved in an initial evaluation. So I'm not happy about the follow-up evaluation proposal. The supplemental report proposal is, in my opinion, a little bit better. Under the current fee schedule, the new proposed fee of $625, that would cover basically about 2.5 hours of work. Under the current proposed fee schedule, it would come in at just under 2 hours of work. And again, this only applies to new information that's provided to the provider, with the opportunity for higher billing rate as page counts increase. As page counts increase, the fee billed for supplemental reports can increase as well. Medical legal testimony is much better, much better. $4.55 an hour trumps $2.50 an hour for what many qualified medical evaluators consider to be a stressful situation to begin with, and that has to do with the sitting in the boiler room of depositions, if you will. Review of sub rosa videotaping is simply based on time-based billing at $325 an hour, and that represents our pay raise of approximately 30%. So that's simply a time-based billing code. And then finally, in my opinion, the remedial supplemental report being reimbursed at $0 is well deserved by us as qualified medical evaluators, because many qualified medical evaluators employ supplemental reports as a business strategy to increase the value, the case value of their evaluation. And you know who you are, and I know who you are. And this is a problem. This is a parasite, and this is a toxic cancer on the system, because the need for supplemental reports simply introduces delays into the system, while all the parties wait for you as the qualified medical evaluator to get your act together and finally resolve the issues in dispute, which you should have resolved the first time through. So this is an attempt by the Division of Workers' Compensation to discourage the supplemental reporting as a business strategy and as a manipulable code under the current medical legal fee schedule that's widely employed by qualified medical evaluators. So in my opinion, the remedial supplemental report is going to itself make some improvements into the system. So there you have it. The new proposed medical legal fee schedule it has momentum, and the Division of Workers' Compensation is motivated to get a new fee schedule introduced by approximately January 1st, 2021. In fact, they're already a little bit behind in their promise to the State Auditor to have a new proposed fee schedule by approximately April 2020. And this is being recorded on July 6, 2020. So the division is already a little bit behind schedule. So I encourage you to take a look at the new proposed medical legal fee schedule. And if you would make a chart on a piece of blank paper, and on the left hand of the chart, make a list of scenarios wherein you feel the new proposed fee schedule would be beneficial or would produce a win for you as a qualified medical evaluator. And on the other side of the chart, come up with some scenarios wherein you feel that the new proposed fee schedule would represent a loss for you, and take a look at the two columns. I know for me, I just received a request for a supplemental report, and if I can back away from the computer here, I can show you the medical records that were provided to me for this supplemental report. There were approximately 2,700 pages of medical records provided for this supplemental report. Now, 2,700 pages, so excess pages is 2,500 pages in excess. There's 200 pages included in the supplemental report. Supplemental report gets reimbursed at $625. So this has 2,500 excess pages. The first 1,800 pages are going to be reimbursed at $3 a piece. That's $5,400. $5,400. The next 700 pages are going to be reimbursed at $2 a page. That's $1,400 plus $5,400 plus $625 for the report itself. That evaluation is going to come in at $7,425, which to me represents a pay raise. A similar supplemental report with approximately 2,700 pages, probably prior to the new proposed medical legal fee schedule, would probably come in at somewhere around $4,000 to $5,000. So at $7,425, this is a report that I'm looking forward to digging my teeth into. This is a juicy report. This is a healthy report. But again, this is the exceptional report. We're not often going to get reports, either initial reports or supplemental reports, that involve 2,700 pages of medical records. So in this particular instance, this would represent a win that might offset some of the loss associated with the new reimbursement for the initial evaluation. And that's what each of you have to decide for yourself, is how this new proposed fee schedule would work for you in various scenarios that you can imagine in your imagination. So you have until July 10th to comment on the new proposed fee schedule. You can do so by replying to DWC forums at dir.ca.gov, and it's important that if you are not in 100% agreement with the new fee schedule that you make your voice heard, because the Division of Workers' Compensation listens to the players out in the field. And I know this because I know those people down at the Division of Workers' Compensation. I've met them. They're very sincere, dedicated people who have a sincere interest in improving the Qualified Medical Evaluator system. So for easy continuing education, this is Dr. Perry Carpenter, wishing you best of success in your career as a Qualified Medical Evaluator.